Now, Tenderfoot is the second rank out of the 7 ranks in scouting, and assuming you already have scout rank, you should already know some of the basic things or basic rules of scouting. Hey guys, Matt Guzman here, back with another video, and instead of doing a merit badge video, this is going to be different because this video is how to earn the Tenderfoot rank, and this just touches upon basic skills that you should know in your scouting career. And since this is leaning towards more like doing things instead of memorizing things, here are some tips to get you started. Don't overcomplicate these requirements because these are like basic fundamental skills of scouting. They shouldn't be too hard as long as you're keeping on top of things. Keep in mind responsibility. This is not like Cub Scouts where you have the adults telling you exactly what you need to do. You should be looking yourself to see what you need to complete and motivating yourself in order to complete the requirements. You can work together on requirements too. You shouldn't be like doing these alone or like grueling yourself over getting them done. Have fun and work with others. Also, this is very important, use a binder or folder to organize stuff, like things in general, papers, meal plans, permission slips, notes, anything, organize them in some way. And one more, the back of the scout book has logs for activities like camping, hiking, service hours. Keep those logs updated and complete requirements in a timely manner. For me, because I did not complete them in a timely manner, it took me almost 2 years to get Tenderfoot because, well, mainly because I quit scouting, but when I came back, I got Tenderfoot, and it took a while for me. It really shouldn't take that long, maybe a couple months or so. And the Scout book is an important tool, so use it, read it, and understand the material, because it really helps. I've read through the entire thing like maybe 3 times, I don't know. So let's get right into the first requirement. 1A, present yourself to your leader prepared for an overnight camping trip. Show the personal and camping gear you will use, and show the right way to pack and carry it. So, you don't have to do these in order. They're just like they're just requirements in like an ordered manner, but you don't actually have to complete all of them in order, except there's an exception, but I'll cover that at the end. But this one, you need to know camping in general beforehand. And now there's pages in the book in your camping section, and it gives you a checklist of what you need to pack. So I followed that when I was packing and when I was doing this requirement because it really helped in figuring out what I needed to bring for it. And also it's good to follow along anyway because these are the basic things you need during a camp out, especially if you're trying to like fit it all in your backpack, which is probably wise if you're going to carry the backpack around. 1B says to spend at least one night on a patrol or troop campout and sleep in a tent that you have helped pitch. Now, you don't have to set it up by yourself, but since you're starting out, you do have to understand how the tent works and pitch it yourself, and you also have to sleep in it. But the main thing is knowing how to set up the tent and getting used to doing it, especially when you're packing it up. Getting it to fit in the bag is always the hardest part for newbies. 1C says tell how you practice the outdoor code on a campout or outing, and assuming that you've done the scout rank, you should know what the outdoor code is. Basically, it's like a guideline on how you should treat yourself and how you should treat nature in the outdoors. Moving on to number 2. 2A says on the campout or on a campout, assist in preparing one of the meals from the meal plan. Tell why it is important for each patrol member to share in meal preparation and cleanup. So I think this requirement is a really good one because not only does it teach you how to cook, but it also has you talk to other people to learn from them and assist in the cooking so you feel as part of the troop. And getting this done means you can learn from other people and apply what you've learned to a task at hand. 2B says while on a campout, demonstrate an appropriate method of safely cleaning items used to prepare, serve, and eat a meal. And this doesn't directly say it, but I really think it's important to understand those methods of safely cleaning and why it's important to keep tools and stuff cleaned and for sanitary reasons as well, and to understand how it helps in meal preparation. 2C says to explain the importance of eating together as a patrol. 3A says to demonstrate a practical use of the square knot. So, this was kind of, you already had to know these in the scout rank, and if you were in Weeblos, you also had to learn knots. But this is demonstrating like the putting it into use. The square knot is one of the most recognizable knots because of how simple it is and its practical use of tying two ropes together of equal width. Now you also have to demonstrate a practical use of the two half hitches and demonstrate a practical use of the taut line hitch. And learning a bunch of knots can be hard, but eventually you won't need to think about it because the muscle memory from doing it so many times will just be there to where you can just do the knots whenever you're in a position that you need to use it. And the last one for 3D says to demonstrate proper care, sharpening, and use of the knife, saw, and axe, and describe when each should be used. Now, this kind of falls in line to something called a Totin sheet, which is what you need to get the permission to handle the knife, axe, and knife. But if you're doing it for requirements, you need to have the adults with you supervising. But these basic skills that you learn in those using or in the usage of those, it helps in understanding what the Totin shit is. And it's also a separate reward, and it's not really required, but it is cool to have it because then you can carry a knife with you, and you can like chop wood and on campouts and stuff using an axe. But if you have to understand the safety first before using any of those, so it's important that you understand this requirement and how to safely take care of the items. Now, moving on to number 4. 4A is an important requirement in my opinion because it appears many times throughout your scouting career. 4A says to show first aid for the following: simple cuts and scrapes, blisters on the hand and foot, minor, thermal and heat, burns or scalds, bites or stings of insects and ticks, venomous snake bites, nosebleeds, frostbite and sunburn, and choking. Now, first aid, not only does it show up everywhere, but it's also a merit badge. And not only is it a merit badge, but the first aid requirement here, it's kind of interchangeable in other awards, like other merit badges and other, like, if you don't know what a merit badge is, don't worry about it for now. It's not important for the Tenderfoot requirement, but just know that requirements like these, that I think are important, they apply to other awards that you can get. So it's important that you know it because it might be interchangeable among other things. And it's first aid in general, so it's very important to know first aid. 4B says to describe common poisonous or hazardous plants. Identify any that grow in your local area or campsite location. Tell how to treat for exposure to them. 4C says to tell what you can do while on a campout or other outdoor activity to prevent or reduce the occurrence of injuries or exposures listed in Tenderfoot requirements 4A and 4B. And with all the knowledge from requirement 4, assemble a first aid kit to carry with you in future campouts and hikes. Tell how each item in the first aid kit would be used. Again, this is basic first aid, and you should know and understand how each of the items work and how you would use them. And keep in mind, it says to assemble a personal first aid kit. And you're not supposed to just buy a first aid kit. You're actually supposed to pick items out, or like you could have multiple first aid kits or something like that, and just pick out a few items from each and make your own. So that's what I did. I had a personal first aid kit from different items that I thought would be helpful to have in a first aid kit of mine. And this is just so you understand like the importance of first aid, and so you understand how to actually do first aid. Moving on to requirement number 5. 5A says to explain the importance of the buddy system as it relates to your personal safety on outings and in your neighborhood. Basically, for the buddy system, wherever you're going, you need to have someone with you, another scout or a buddy, to make sure that you don't get hurt. And it's just a basic rule that I think a lot of people don't recognize how important it is to follow. Use the buddy system while on a troop or patrol outing. 5B says to describe what to do if you become lost on a campout or a hike. This is kind of important, especially because it's super easy to get lost, especially if you're like a newbie or if it's your first time on a campout. A basic tip, don't stray from the group, pay attention, and keep with whoever you're supposed to be with. 5C says to explain the rules of safe hiking, both on the highway and cross country, during the day and at night. So at this point, if you're new, you might be thinking, oh my gosh, this is a lot to know. Like, how am I supposed to do this? You can seek help from other people. You can work with other scouts, work with adult leaders, and again, most of this stuff is actually in the Scout book. You just look in the sections and read a little bit, and it's really easy. Well, not easy because you have to put some effort into it, but it's a basic way of getting this information. And speaking of that, take a breather. You're halfway through the rank. These next requirements need like planning ahead of time. You can't really just do them. You have to either coordinate with your troop or you need to plan in advance on how you're going to do these requirements. And also, they need commitment on your part. You can't just slack off on these next requirements. Stay organized and be consistent. Keep track of everything that you do. That's like pertaining to taking notes of what you've done in a meeting or writing something down for what you want to do. Just in general, make sure you're staying on top of things. So, with that being said, 6A, again, I think it's an important requirement. It involves commitment. 6A says to record your best in the following tests: push ups, sit ups or curl ups, back saver, sit and reach, and a 1 mile walk or run. So just do your best in each of these and record what you get. And then once you do that, here's some tips that I have when you're starting this off. Either go to a track or a field and plan out an activity somewhere, like at a park or, those places. Just plan it out in advance of where you're going to do it. And have other scouts participate with you so you can all help each other improve on whatever you've gotten before and what you're working towards. Because 6B, when you're taking responsibility for completing this requirement, 6B has you to develop and describe a plan for improvement in each of the activities listed in Tenderfoot Requirement 6A. So your responsibility is being committed to this improvement. And keep track of your activity for at least 30 days. And I put a little note there: make a chart or a document for your progress and keep it in your binder. So you need to make sure you're on top of this and keeping it. It's okay if you miss a day or few, but if you go like an entire week without doing anything, you're probably going to have to redo the requirement, which is what happened to me. I had to redo this like twice. So 6C, again, it involves commitment. Show an improvement of any degree in each activity listed in Tenderfoot Requirement 6A after practicing for 30 days. And again, those are push-ups, sit-ups or curl-ups, back saver, sit and reach, and 1 mile walk or run. For instance, when I did this requirement like almost 2 years ago, I had 20 push-ups, and then 30 days later, I had 30 push-ups. 7, demonstrate how to display, raise, lower, and fold the American flag. This is important just out of respect because you need to really know how to handle the American flag correctly. So out of the many times I've been to a La Noche, I've been tasked quite a few times to do the actual flagpoles. This isn't actually me here, but it shows the proper procedures of clipping it and everything. And you don't need to have something fancy to get this requirement, but you do need to understand the correct, like how you're supposed to fold it, how you're supposed to unwrap it. Basic things like don't let the American flag touch the floor. And it's really important, especially in a setting like this where eyes are on you, and if you mess up, people are going to notice it. So you don't have to make everything perfect, but at least follow the basic guidelines for giving respect to all the flags. And of course, demonstrating it. 7B says to participate in a total of 1 hour of service and one or more service projects approved by your Scoutmaster. And explain how your service to others relates to the Scout slogan and Scout motto. Now, this is one thing you'll probably have to ask either your SPL, which is the scout in charge of your troop, or an adult leader on coordinating a service project or some type of service. For example, a plan that my troop had was to put down mulch at the church that charters us, and while doing that, since I was the oldest at that time, they let me drive the golf cart around, so it was a pretty cool win-win. So we were transporting the mulch to and from this giant pile we had, and then we took it over in the golf cart to another pile. And any type of service, as long as you plan it, will easily get this requirement done. If you're coordinating it with your troop, it's really easy to just do the service and get it organized. Moving on to number 8, describe the steps in scouting's EDGE method. This is, in my opinion, one of the most important things, learning EDGE, because EDGE stands for explaining, demonstrating, guiding, and enabling, and this is teaching others a skill, but I apply it to teaching anyone in general, because you need to explain whatever you're trying to teach them, and then For visual learners, demonstrate the steps on how to actually do it, and then guide them as they're practicing and enable them to succeed on their own. So I think it's super important, especially because 8 has you practice it by using the edge method to teach another person how to tie the square knot. Moving on to number 9, demonstrate Scout spirit by living the Scout oath and Scout law. And you're just supposed to tell how you've done your duty to God and how you've lived 4 different points of the Scout law in your everyday life. And just saying, it's probably better not to just choose the 4 easiest, because you will have to do this requirement again for other ranks. So maybe choose 2 hard ones and 2 easy ones of the Scout law, and just choose 4 points and explain how you've lived by those 4 points in your everyday life, and relate that back to the Scout oath as well. Now, number 10, this was the exception I was talking about earlier, and where you can't just do this one. You have to complete requirement 7 first. It says, while working towards the Tenderfoot rank and after completing Scout rank requirement 7, participate in a Scoutmaster conference, which you've done before in the Scout rank, where you're just talking to your Scoutmaster on how you've done so far. This one is different. Successfully complete your board review from the Tenderfoot rank. And if you're new to Scouting, basically, in a board review, Scout leaders ask questions about your progress in your Scouting career, review what you've done, and they ask how you've accomplished certain things. I'm not going to go really into in depth of this, but that's just an overview of how a board review usually goes, or at least from my experience. And that was a lot, but if you've been following along, this is the end of the Tenderfoot rank. So thank you for watching my video on how to earn the Tenderfoot rank. I really hope it was helpful, and if you enjoyed the video, please like it, share it to other Scouts who may have trouble working on this, and make sure to turn on notifications on my channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye! And the last one for 3, demonstrate proper care, sharpening, and the use of the axe, saw, and axe. Oh my god, I can't speak! Also, keep in mind that having a first aid kit is really helpful in certain circumstances. Ugh!